Welcome to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Tyler Kieft, welcoming you to our live 5 days a week look into all things Oakland County. Today we'll be talking to artists, nonprofit and business leaders, authors, and more about topics important to you right here in Oakland County. Let's get into today's headlines on our website at civiccentertv.com on our local news page. Our top story today is from the Detroit News' Sarah Rahal. Michigan has added 13,102 cases and 64 deaths from COVID-19 over the past week, including sick totals from the previous 6 days, according to the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. Michigan reported an average daily case rate of 1,872 cases over the last 7 days. That is a 9% decrease from 2,050 cases per day a week prior. On June 28th, the state said it had added 14,353 cases and 174 deaths from the virus in the previous week. Case rates and hospitalizations declined this week after an increase last week from May to mid-June. Case rates and hospitalizations both fell for 5 weeks. On Monday, the state reported that 670 adults and 16 pediatric patients were hospitalized with confirmed infections, a slight decline from 696 adults and 15 children a week ago. Inpatient records were set on January 10th when 4,500 adults were hospitalized with COVID-19. On Monday in Michigan, about 4.5% of the state's hospital beds were filled with COVID-19 patients, and there was an average of 1,090 emergency room visits related to COVID-19 per day in the state as of Monday. That compares with 24% of hospital beds being full and 2,889 daily emergency room visits due to the virus the first week of January of 2022. But June 24th through 30th, and during that time frame, about 14.3% of Michigan's COVID-19 tests returned positive. Of course, that is all based on data that is sent to the state. Not all testing data is now sent to the state. Of course, with at-home tests and self-reporting, that number could be higher and maybe even lower depending on the results of at-home tests. Again, that 14.3% based on data that's received from the state on COVID-19 testing. All Metro Detroit health departments are following Centers for Disease Control and Prevention guidelines that recommend indoor masking for public settings and K-12 schools as the rate of infection has grown from medium to high in this area. Tuesday's additions bring the state's overall totals to 2,619,533 confirmed cases, as well as 36,982 deaths since the virus was first detected in Michigan in March of 2020. No counties in the state this week are considered at a quote-unquote high-risk level for the increased burden on healthcare or severe disease. Another 14 counties, mostly in northern Michigan, have a quote-unquote medium transmission level, according to the state health department. Those are Alger, Berry, Calhoun, Crawford, Gladwin, Iron, Kalkaska, Monroe, Oscoda, Otsego, Roscommon, Sanilac, St. Clair, and Washtenaw counties. Case counts are well below early January when the state set a new high water mark with more than 20,000 confirmed cases of COVID-19 per day. In Michigan, variants of the virus have moved at a high rate, proving more contagious than past variants and infecting unvaccinated and vaccinated residents alike. A new iteration of the Omicron variant, the BA2 subvariant, is now the dominant strain across Michigan and the United States, but experts say another surge of cases is unlikely. Really highly recommend that you go to civiccentertv.com, click on our Megacast page, and explore a recent interview with Dr. Russell Faust, where he talked about some of the reasons why that BA2 variant is causing some more breakthrough infections, but isn't necessarily expected to cause another surge. Continuing on in this article from the Detroit News, the Food and Drug Administration, or FDA, expanded its approval of remdesivir on April 25th, making it the first COVID-19 treatment available for children under the age of 12. In Michigan, 302 cases of a rare inflammatory condition in children linked with coronavirus have been reported to the CDC. About 65% of kids with the syndrome are admitted to intensive care units, and there have been about 5 deaths in total as of today. As of Monday, 136 outbreaks were reported over the prior week. The majority, 74 of those outbreaks, were in K-12 schools. 37 outbreaks were in long-term care facilities and senior assisted living centers, and another 12 outbreaks were in daycare or youth sports programs. The state is tracking 203 ongoing outbreak cases. About 66% of state residents, or 6.6 million people, have received at least their first dose of a COVID-19 vaccine, and 60% are fully vaccinated. More than 238,000 children ages 5 to 11 in Michigan, or 29% of that population group, have received at least their first dose of a COVID-19 vaccine. More than 3.2 million individuals, or 35% of the eligible population, have received a vaccine booster in Michigan, and 5.6 million are fully vaccinated. U.S. regulators authorized the first COVID-19 shots for infants and preschoolers recently, paving the way for vaccinations to begin this week. The Food and Drug Administration's panel unanimously recommended the shots from Moderna and Pfizer for children between 6 months and 5 years old. Also making headlines on our website at civiccentertv.com on our local news page from John Weissley of the Detroit Free Press. Carlos Santana last night collapsed on stage during a concert at Pine Knob Music Theater in Clarkston. He collapsed on stage during a performance at Pine Knob. The artist, Carlos Santana, 74 years old, quote, was overtaken by heat exhaustion and dehydration, and close quote, said his manager, Michael Vironis, in a statement to the Detroit Free Press. He continued on by saying, quote, Carlos was taken to the emergency department at McLaren Clarkston for observation and is doing well, and close quote. A show scheduled for Wednesday evening in Burgettstown, Pennsylvania was postponed, according to Vironis. The collapse on stage startled fans who were there to see Santana and the earlier performance by Earth, Wind, and Fire. Quote, he kind of sat down by the drums and fell backwards, and then all hell broke loose on stage, said Steve Oshinsky of West Bloomfield, who was in the 10th row near the center of the stage. Quote, he was soaked and he was drenched the whole time, and close quote. The music quickly stopped and the medical personnel rushed onto the stage, Oshinsky said. They put a black screen down to provide privacy, turned on the house lights, and asked the crowd to leave the venue. Quote, a lot of people started to scream out like, we're praying for you, Carlos. And close quote, said former Detroit Free Press sports feature writer Joanne Barnes, who was seated about 40 rows back from the right side of the stage. Quote, you're all right, Carlos. We'll be here for you, Carlos. And closed quote. Barnes said it was hot, but before the collapse, she hadn't seen any signs that Santana, at 74 years old, or the previous act, Earth, Wind, and Fire, were struggling from the heat. She said his energy level and his music were every bit as good as the show he played there in 2019. Quote, Carlos was on fire. He just performed a solo before that, and he was great, and closed quote. Oshinsky said it was just before 10 p.m. when Santana, clad in all white, including his trademark fedora, had collapsed. Quote, he played like 7 or 8 songs, and close quote, Oshinsky said, continuing on, quote, he was drinking water and coffee. I kept seeing them bring him a coffee cup, and closed quote. Santana was waving to fans as he was taken off stage, according to a report from Variety magazine. He did not return, and the audience was asked to leave the venue around 10:30 p.m. on Tuesday night. Quote, they just told us to leave the venue, but so many are still here, stunned, looking at the near empty stage, and closed quote, treated Barnes, continuing on, saying, quote, Santana, about 1 minute into a song he had collaborated with Chris Stapleton, Carlos was calling for healing and joy, and closed quote. Santana and Earth, Wind, and Fire were playing at Pine Knob as part of the quote unquote miraculous supernatural 2022 tour. In December, he had canceled shows for his residency at Las Vegas's House of Blues after undergoing an unscheduled heart procedure. We wish our best to Carlos Santana and his entire band after that incident last night at Pine Knob Music Theater. A scary situation. Another reminder for all of you out there that may be going to these concerts or spending a lot of time outside. Keep yourself hydrated, take breaks, get into the shade, because it gets hot, it gets humid out there, and it affects us a lot quicker than we expect. But we wish Carlos Santana and his entire crew a quick recovery, and hopefully they get back on the stage very soon. Finally, making headlines on our website at civiccentertv.com on our local news page from MLive's Edward Pivos. Get your DVRs ready. Big Brother 24 is going to have one house guest from Michigan competing for the $750,000 prize. Michigan will once again be represented on the upcoming season of the hit CBS reality show Big Brother. The 24th season, which debuts tonight, July 6th, Wednesday night at 8 p.m., has one house guest from the state of Michigan. 27-year-old model Taylor Hale is a personal stylist from West Bloomfield in Metro Detroit. That's all the show is saying about her right now, as the house guests were just introduced late Tuesday afternoon after being sequestered before the season begins tonight. Hale will move into the Big Brother house on Wednesday night along with 15 other strangers from around the U.S. to compete for the grand prize of $750,000. Michigan has been well represented in years past on the reality show. Last season, Kalamazoo native Xavier Prather won season 23 and became the first black house guest in the show's history to win the game and the first to win $750,000. Previous winners took home $500,000 if they won the game, and that includes two other contestants from Michigan having won the game. The first being Dearborn's Dan Giesling, who won Big Brother 10, finished second on Big Brother 14 here in Oakland County. Also, he had previously been a teacher at Orchard Lake St. Mary's High School, where he also coached as an assistant coach on the football team. Nicole Franzel from Ubley in the Thumb area earned the grand prize for winning season 18, and then she finished third place just a couple of years ago on their All-Star season. Big Brother's motto is, quote, expect the unexpected, and close quote. And according to host Julie Chen Moonves, who spoke with ET Online, this season will be no exception. Quote, it's a 90-minute premiere, and as soon as people get out of the house, they're going to play get into the house. They're going to play new challenges we've never had before. Then we're going to show you a crazy first live eviction show, and close quote. Chen Moonves shared with ET, who also said there's another twist coming on premiere night that contestants won't see coming. Quote, oh, and the end of the premiere episode, I'm going to make them an offer that they cannot refuse. So it's like you go all in and it's hitting you from all angles. It's a whole new game. We'll be rooting for Taylor here in West Bloomfield, where we originate our Oakland County Megacast broadcast here in the greater West Bloomfield area and all across the state of Michigan. Hopefully Michigan can go back to back with Big Brother champions. All those headlines on our website, civiccentertv.com, on our local news page, as well as those ever helpful links to up-to-date and accurate information on COVID-19 from the Centers for Disease Control, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, and the Oakland County Health Division. We have a great program ahead on this Wednesday edition of the Oakland County Megacast. Up next, I'll be joined by mixed media artist Emily Adelman, and then at the bottom of the hour, Leon Judd from Nami Metro will join us on the program. All that's coming up next. You're watching and listening to the Oakland County Megacast.
Now that the vaccine is available for children 5 and up, why do you recommend it?
Kids are part of the community and they can spread COVID.
We're seeing both healthy children getting sick from the virus as well as children with underlying health conditions.
They can easily bring the virus home to other people that are vulnerable and make them sick as well.
This vaccine can change that and keep children safe.
It's essential that your children get vaccinated to protect them, to protect your families, and to protect those in the community around you.
Can I ask you a question? Why do you want to get the COVID-19 vaccine?
I don't like getting sick. The virus will die. It will be easy to not catch it. Keep my family safe and keep playing soccer. Because I love being vaccinated.
What's your hope for everyone?
I hope everybody gets the vaccine to keep safe and strong. Be like happy, having fun everywhere. Everyone stay safe and hope you get the vaccine.
Let's relish these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the festivals going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. Let's savor these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the dining out going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. Wondering what to say to someone who's been sexually assaulted or abused?
I believe you. I'm so sorry this happened.
It's not your fault.
Confidential and anonymous help is available at the Michigan Sexual Assault Hotline. Connect with us 24/7. Call 855-VOICES-4 or text 1-866-238-1454 for help. Learn more at michigan.gov/voices4. Now that the vaccine is available for children 5 and up, why do you recommend it?
Kids are part of the community and they can spread COVID.
We're seeing both healthy children getting sick from the virus as well as children with underlying health conditions.
They can easily bring the virus home to other people that are vulnerable and make them sick as well.
This vaccine can change that and keep children safe.
It's essential that your children get vaccinated to protect them, to protect your families, and to protect those in the community around you.
Welcome back to the Oakland County Megacast, our live daily 1-hour show about all things Oakland County. I'm Tyler Kieft. Learn more about the program by visiting our website at civiccentertv.com and clicking on our Megacast page, where you'll find information on our entire network of stations, including our flagships, Civic Center TV and My Michigan TV. Joining us now on the program is one of the many in the distinguished group of artists from Michigan and around the world that you'll see at this year's Orchard Lake Fine Art Show, July 30th and 31st in West Bloomfield. Mixed media artist Emily Adelman joins us now on the Oakland County Megacast. Emily, thank you for being with us today.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Appreciate having you on. So first of all, tell us about the art that you create and what people will see from you at this year's Orchard Lake Fine Art Show.
Well, my main medium is epoxy resin. So it's not a traditional medium that is common amongst artists. So it's definitely something unique that people are going to see. It's very colorful, very bright. Some of the things that I'll have there are home goods. I make serving trays, coffee tables, pens, notebooks, coasters, paintings, geode paintings. I like to mix the epoxy resin with a lot of other medium as well. So I like to put in bedazzle, if you will, my paintings. So they're 2D, but they add a lot of dimension and make it sort of a 3D painting by adding crystals and stones and gems, things like that.
What's this process like to get that result? Because there's so much detail that you see in the final result. And when you're manipulating art with epoxy resin, I would imagine because that resin has to settle into the piece, that's fairly difficult to get that end result exactly the way that you're envisioning it. So what's your approach?
That's right. Epoxy resin is a difficult medium to work with, and it was a pretty steep learning curve. It does take epoxy resin 72 hours to fully cure. So it is a long process, and especially if you're doing more than one layer, there's many steps involved. So it starts off as a liquid. You add equal parts of A and B, mix it up, and you have about 40 minutes working time before it starts to solidify into a hard plastic. So you're really crunched for time, and you kind of have to plan out beforehand what you're going to do. But there's only so many tools and techniques that you can do with epoxy, because it really has a mind of its own. You're working against gravity. So you kind of have to improvise as you go along, and have kind of a rough idea and change your vision of the final product, as it goes along. So sometimes, you kind of learn the mistakes the hard way through trial and error. And most of the time I know what not to do for next time. But that's what makes this medium really fun, is that it gives way to a lot of experimentation. And I think that's why I've fallen in love with this medium and have, had a passion for it and kept it going as soon as I discovered it about 5 or 6 years ago. And basically taught myself off of a YouTube video, which at that time there was only a handful of YouTube videos, which nowadays epoxy resin is becoming a bit more common amongst artists, and there's tens of thousands of videos out there, which is quite fascinating that it's taken a liking amongst new artists and established artists alike.
We're joined by Emily Adelman. She is one of many artists you'll find at this year's Orchard Lake Fine Art Show, July 30th and 31st on Powers and Daly Road, just off of Orchard Lake Road in the heart of the Town Center District of West Bloomfield Township. Hotworks.org is the website you go to for more information on Emily and all the artists that will be participating at this year's Orchard Lake Fine Art Show, including some student artists. Really interesting stuff they got going on every year at the Orchard Lake Fine Art Show. Emily, you have an interesting background too, because you have a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering. By day, you are a patent law attorney, and then by night, you are an artist. So how did you get into this form of art, and then and on top of that, turn that into, at least in part, a career?
That's true. It's an unlikely story, but I think it's because of my background that I started doing art. I was never really a natural artist, never really had a lot of artistic talent, or interest for that matter, in, my childhood or, my early adulthood. It wasn't until about 10 years ago that I decided to take one art class from, rec ed. And during that class, I just found it that it was so therapeutic. It was so meditative, that I just really enjoyed it. And so I kept on taking classes and felt like the stressful work was kind of balanced out by the therapy I was getting from art. So, I kept it going, and what kind of started as a hobby became more of a passion, and became a more of a way of life. So the art in my life, is really a form of daily meditation for me. And so I still work as a patent attorney, and do part-time artwork and custom commission pieces and things like that, but also artwork for myself. I just do it for myself sometimes, and that kind of just everything else melts away and you get in the zone, and it's just very relaxing. But I do love the balance of left brain, right brain. So I like, the mechanical engineering side of me that is very problem solving, very, black and white, very, there's a problem and there's a solution, as opposed to the artwork, which I found has been a great, tool for expressing myself, that I never knew existed. And so I'm able to let out a lot of, emotion and stress through, a visual medium as opposed to verbal. So I've found it to be a good balance, in general. So.
We're joined by Emily Adelman. She is one of the many artists you'll find at this year's Orchard Lake Fine Art Show, July 30th and 31st, in the heart of West Bloomfield Township, Powers and Daly Road, which is just off of Orchard Lake Road, heading south toward M10, the Lodge, in West Bloomfield Township. More information can be found on hotworks.org, hotworks.org, for more information. And of course, that's the organization that runs the Orchard Lake Fine Art Show. Again, July 30th and 31st in West Bloomfield Township. You can even get tickets now, so you can walk right in on July 30th and or the 31st in the heart of West Bloomfield Township and see some of Emily's work. And so, Emily, you mentioned earlier on when we were talking about kind of the mechanics that go into working with epoxy resin when you're making this mixed media, that you do have to be very technical with it. You do have to be very timely with the way that you are settling this epoxy. And that being the case, I parallel that with you saying that this art is so therapeutic for you, because you are really having to manipulate the epoxy in pretty quick succession to have it settled the way that you're intending it to settle. But yet you have this feeling as you're making this art that you are relaxed and you are meditative. How does that manifest itself for you, despite the circumstances that you're making this art under?
Right. Well, there is that element of, planning ahead and knowing, exactly the properties of the medium, as well as being able to adapt to what the medium is going to do on its own. But really, it's I find it to be a good practice of mindfulness, because while you're working and noticing the clock and noticing, you know, exactly where you want the epoxy to go and what your intentions are, you really can't focus, your brain can't focus on anything other than what's right in front of you. So it's a good way of just really like honing in on what you're doing in the moment. And as that happens, kind of everything else in the background, all the other, you know, chatter in your brain as it is, kind of melts away. And so you really get in that zone that I was talking about before, where it feels like something like meditation.
We're joined by Emily Adelman. You will find her at this year's Orchard Lake Fine Art Show, July 30th and 31st in the heart of West Bloomfield Township. Powers and Daly Road heading south just off of Orchard Lake Road after Maple Road. Between Maple and M10 on Orchard Lake. Emily, you mentioned earlier too that there is kind of a steep learning curve as you're learning to manipulate the epoxy resin and create art in this fashion. So how long have you been working on this? When was the point that you took that first class and got interested in it, and then got to a point where you are able to not only create this art, but create art in a way that has a market, clearly, with you going to these art shows?
Right. So I think I started working with epoxy resin about 5 or 6 years ago. My first art class was about 10 years ago. So I was experimenting with other forms of art, you know, 2D and 3D. And I kind of stumbled into epoxy resin. I think I saw a photograph or a video of a piece of artwork, and it just looked really interesting. It was intriguing. So I looked further into it and looked at a couple of YouTube videos, and I'm like, I really need to see how this works. You know, I need to see for myself. And there was, a bunch of trial and error, mostly errors, which, you know, you tend to learn the best from, you know, the mistakes rather than, you know, what ends up working out for you. So it did take a long time to really understand just the various properties of epoxy resin, especially when it comes to knowing the difference between brands of resin, you know, what happens when you mix different pigments with it, because you can mix, you know, acrylic paints or pigment powders or spray paint or alcohol inks. And each of those adds sort of a different property to what's already a difficult medium. So basically just experimenting, and you know, over time you gain this skill, and you can kind of predict you know, how to envision things and how things are going to work. It became really interesting when I started working with epoxy resin in 3 dimensions. Because then you're really working against gravity. But I found that like sculpture with resin was just open the door, open the door to so many different possibilities that with each experiment that I did, I came up with like 5 more experiments that I wanted to do and try out, just because the intrigue, the interest, and watching the process. I don't know if you've ever seen a time lapse of a really interesting artwork, or somebody doing a mural or something like that, and you're kind of entranced in it and seeing the progression from beginning to end. It was kind of like that, where you know, I saw what other people were doing, and saw the process. And it's just, as you're doing it yourself, you're just like kind of mesmerized as to, you know, how it changes so quickly over time. You know, you could do a 2D painting, let's say, you know, an abstract resin painting. And as it's turning from a liquid to a solid, you could, leave the painting for 10 minutes and come back, and it'll look like a completely different painting because it's still flowing. It's still, mixing with each other. There's different layers. There's, different thicknesses and pigments that it's kind of dispersing in places and then solidifying in other places. And so it adds real interest, just watching it, as it fully, cures like the whole painting itself. So it looks very different from when you first pour the painting on, your substrate. So, that's another interest, that keeps me intrigued in working with epoxy resin.
So let's elaborate on that a little bit more, Emily, because you mentioned earlier on, we've talked about this multiple times during this interview, the therapeutic nature of creating that art, but this creation of the art with epoxy resin, this mixed media, it's not something that you are creating as you're putting it together and then it's done and you're moving on. You are seeing it create itself also in a way. So when your art is at that point where it's out of your hands and it's just how that epoxy resin is settling, what feelings do you get out of that as you're seeing your art reach its final form?
If it's work I'm doing for myself, it's more of excitement, relief. If it's a custom piece that somebody wanted, a particular design, particular colors, I get very nervous towards the end because there's, very little, if anything, I can do at that point. So you just kind of hope that the resin does what you're wanting it to do, and that you don't have to start over. And you're hoping that it's not a fail. But at this point, it's I've done it for so long, and have worked with the medium for so long that at the end it does turn out to form most of the time what I intended it to. So then I'm very pleased. I'm very relieved. I'm like, oh, good. This is what the client wanted, and I was able to achieve it. So it's kind of a little bit of pride. A little bit of I'm proud of myself for accomplishing what I set out to do, and the resin did what I wanted it to do. And with every project, I learn a little bit more. There's I don't think there will ever be a time where I can say, oh, I've mastered epoxy resin. There's no more to learn. There's, I know everything about it. I just think there's so many possibilities out there that I will always be learning and will always be, experimenting. So it's especially, when I add functional elements to it, like, a serving tray or a coffee table. Not only is it aesthetic, but it's also functional. People use it in their homes for specific purposes. So you need to also think about the design of it, the mechanics of it. And that's kind of where, the mechanical engineering part kind of helps me in a lot of ways to design, the functionality of it, because you have to, make sure it's going to stand up, make sure it's going to hold a certain amount of weight. You need it to be durable, long lasting. But you're also thinking at the same time, well, it has to look good too. So you need to think about both the aesthetics and, the functionality of it. So again, like working on those pieces, I love the balance of the technicality with the, aesthetic, artistic side of those things. So when I started getting into functional home goods and furniture and things like that, it kind of took on like a whole nother level. And I, along the way, learned a little bit about electrical engineering too, because I love adding, different effects like lighting, like LEDs. And so I learned how to solder, I learned how to weld, I learned, all these things so that I could incorporate, lights and things to, light up these, coffee tables or, different lamps and votive holders, things like that.
We're joined by Emily Adelman. You'll find her at this year's Orchard Lake Fine Art Show, July 30th and 31st in the heart of West Bloomfield Township. Learn more information about the Orchard Lake Fine Art Show and how you can get tickets as well as all their artists by visiting hotworks.org, hotworks.org for more information. Emily, just another few minutes with you before we'll say goodbye today. As you go to these art shows and places like the Orchard Lake Fine Art Show, you get a lot of that interaction with your customers. Hopefully they'll be your customers, but at the very least, art enthusiasts from around the local area and those that travel in. Talk about that experience and what it brings to you as an artist in terms of inspiration, but also just talking through your process and refining that through talking to other art lovers.
Right. I never thought I would be one of these artists that, I've been to so many art fairs, growing up, and I never thought I'd be one of those artists. And in fact, it was a very long time before I was comfortable calling myself a fellow artist, as well. And what I love about these art fairs is meeting other artists and exchanging ideas and seeing what they're doing. And, even though I might be working with a very different medium, a lot of times I can combine different techniques, their medium with resin in, a very unique and novel way. Another thing, though, as you mentioned, I love interacting with what are hopefully clients, customers, and a lot of times from the art fairs, I do give out business cards, and people do contact me after the art fair to do custom pieces for them, which I love because it brings on a new challenge. But it's funny because people do ask me, about my process and how it works, and or even the basic, what is epoxy resin, but they follow up with, oh, you must be sick of being asked this, and actually I never do get sick of it. It's one of the very few topics, maybe the only topic, that I never really get tired of talking about, just because it's such a passion that I'm happy to share that passion and share that knowledge with anyone else interested, when they see my work and see how is this made, how did you handle this. And it's really neat when people come by and they tell me that they also work with epoxy resin, and they might be artists, they might not be artists, but they tell me that they just started getting into epoxy resin, and either they'll have a question of I this tends to happen and I don't know why, do you have a solution for that, or or, oh, wow, that's really neat, I never thought about that, how do you do that? And I love sharing the what I've learned the hard way, when there was, like I said back then, like maybe a handful of YouTube videos, and the whole journey. I love sharing that with the people who are just learning the medium now. So so I love just the interaction with people, even if they don't end up purchasing any of my artwork. It's still the experience that I really enjoy. So that's what keeps me coming back, especially the Orchard Lake Fine Arts Fair.
Emily, we appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us, and we're excited to see you July 30th and 31st at the Orchard Lake Fine Art Show.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
More information on the Orchard Lake Fine Art Show can be found at hotworks.org. Again, July 30th and 31st, Powers and Daly Road, that's heading south, just off of Orchard Lake Road, right in the heart of West Bloomfield Township, just south of Maple Road on Orchard Lake. We're going to take a break on the Megacast. When we come back, we'll speak to one of over 300 charities and nonprofits supported on the Shared Detroit platform when Leon Judd from Nami Metro talks mental health with us, up next on the Oakland County Megacast.
Can I ask you a question? Why do you want to get the COVID-19 vaccine?
I don't like getting sick. The virus will die. It will be easy to not catch it. Keep my family safe and keep playing soccer because I love being vaccinated.
What's your hope for everyone?
I hope everybody gets the vaccine to keep safe and strong. Be like happy, having fun everywhere. Everyone stay safe and hope you get the vaccine.
Let's relish these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the festivals going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. Let's savor these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the dining out going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. Wondering what to say to someone who's been sexually assaulted or abused?
I believe you. I'm so sorry this happened.
It's not your fault.
Confidential and anonymous help is available at the Michigan Sexual Assault Hotline. Connect with us 24/7. Call 855-VOICES-4 or text 1-866-238-1454 for help. Learn more at michigan.gov/voices4. Now that the vaccine is available for children 5 and up, why do you recommend it?
Kids are part of the community and they can spread COVID.
We're seeing both healthy children getting sick from the virus as well as children with underlying health conditions.
They can easily bring the virus home to other people that are vulnerable and make them sick as well.
This vaccine can change that and keep children safe.
It's essential that your children get vaccinated to protect them, to protect your families, and to protect those in the community around you.
Can I ask you a question? Why do you want to get the COVID-19 vaccine?
I don't like getting sick. The virus will die. It will be easy to not catch it. Keep my family safe and keep playing soccer because I love being vaccinated.
What's your hope for everyone?
I hope everybody gets the vaccine to keep safe and strong. Be like happy, having fun everywhere. Everyone stay safe and hope you get the vaccine.
Welcome back to the Oakland County Megacast, our live daily 1-hour show about all things Oakland County. I'm Tyler Kieft. Learn more about the program by visiting our website at civiccentertv.com on our Megacast page, where you'll find information on our entire network of stations, including My Michigan TV. Joining us now on the program is Leon Judd. He is the president of Nami Metro and joins us on the Oakland County Megacast. Leon, thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you, Tyler. Appreciate being here.
Yeah, glad to have you with us. Tell us first about a little bit about yourself, how you got connected with Nami Metro, and then about your organization.
Yeah, so I am the volunteer president of Nami Metro and the founder of the organization. I had 34 years with the National Steel Corporation and retired as vice president of human resources. And then the next day became president of an international IT company headquartered in Germany, but to run the U.S. operations. And so in terms of how I got connected with mental illness is a personal story. I have a son who was 17 when we dropped him off at the University of Pittsburgh Honors Engineering School, engineering physics on an academic scholarship. And in his sophomore year, he had a complete psychotic break. And that was the introduction to mental illness that my wife and I and my son had, and my daughter, to mental illness. It was a very, very difficult time. First 5 years were horrible. A lot went on in those 5 years before insight was accepted. And then treatment came, and the excellent treatment that he's had. He's 47 today, doing very well, went back, got his undergraduate degree, got his master's degree. He's a cybersecurity analyst today. And so because there was very little available for family members during that time, the establishment of Nami Metro allowed us to provide a lot of education and support and advocacy for family members who had a loved one with a mental illness.
We're joined by Leon Judd, the president of Nami Metro, joining us on the Michigan Megacast. More information can be found on NamiMetro.com. And so you mentioned you're the volunteer president of this organization. To what extent are you working with this organization to ensure that it's providing these programs and developing new programs that are meeting the needs of the mental health of people in the metro area?
Great question. So NAMI and all of NAMIs across the country do three things fundamentally. That's education, support, and advocacy for family members as well as individuals who are struggling with a mental health condition. So we have established quite an array of support groups for family members as well as individuals. And then the other thing that we do, in addition to the education programs that we provide, we have a lot of presentations that we do in the community. We go into businesses, we go into middle schools, high schools, anywhere that is interested in learning more about mental health awareness, what some of the signs and the symptoms are, what they can do, and just to learn more about what might be available in the community through NAMI Metro and others. And the other is acting as advocates through our helplines. We're able to get people directed to the kinds of services that we think they might be needing. We are an all-volunteer organization, like I mentioned earlier, so we have no office. All the work that we do is through our homes or into the hospitals, which are temporarily, because of the pandemic, a little bit hard to make contact with. So we're hoping that that breaks loose and we can move from the Zoom meetings that we're currently doing to face-to-face, which is certainly much more personal than the Zoom.
So among the many programs provided by NAMI Metro and provided by NAMIs throughout the U.S. Is the Families in Action program. Can you tell us about the Families in Action program, what services it provides to families and to individuals suffering from mental illness, and how people can access this program?
Yeah, Tyler, the Families in Action program is a 10-week family education program that meets 10 consecutive Wednesdays, and each week is a different educational session. It is also put on by family members who have lived experience to other family members who are going through some of the struggles. We have put over 2,500 family members through this educational program. This was something that was not available when this first came to light with my wife and I. So it was one of the things that was really on our radar screen to bring and make available for family members to help them get early education as to what they can do. The overall objective of the Families in Action is to help your loved one be healthy, happy, and independent. And we've had nothing but positive feedback over the years as a result of doing that, those classes. We do it twice a year in the spring and in the fall. The next class starts September 7th. It'll be done on Zoom again because we're still not able to get back into the hospital where we typically would do the family class. The advantage is that we have people that are able to come to the class that wouldn't normally be able to. Either they can't drive at night, or there are some people are even Zooming in from Florida, Ohio, other states where they have loved ones here in Michigan, but they're actually physically in another location. So it really does teach some really good tools and skills for family members to help them better deal with and help their loved one who may be having some serious problems in communications and getting along and those sorts of things.
We're joined by Leon Judd, the president of Nami Metro on the Michigan Megacast. More information can be found about Nami Metro by visiting its website at NamiMetro.org. That's NamiMetro.org. And so for those that are interested in the Families in Action program and would like to join in on the next meeting of that program, or are interested in other programs through Nami Metro, what steps do they need to take to either sign themselves up individually or sign up a family member, another loved one, or help them with that signing up process for any of these programs?
Yeah, the Families in Action is for the family members or caregivers specifically, and they can do it in two ways. They can either go online to NamiMetro.org, and on the resource tab of that website, you'll see something called Families in Action. There's a brochure that outlines the 10 weeks, and an application form to get registered, or else they can email me at leonj@namimetro.org and let me know that they're interested, and we can get them on the waiting list. We already have people on the waiting list started out for September 7th class. These have always filled up, so they're obviously of help, but a lot of word of mouth is what helps in getting other family members to register for the class.
We're joined by Leon Judd, the president of Nami Metro, serving the communities of Metro, Macomb, Wayne, and Oakland counties in the state of Michigan. More information can be found at namimetro.org. That's namimetro.org. And so what sort of affiliation does your organization have, or relationship does your organization have, this more localized chapter of Nami, with the national organization? How does that communication then help to provide even better support to those in Metro, Oakland, Wayne, and Macomb counties?
Yeah, Nami National is the largest mental health advocacy organization in the country. There is an office in every state. In Michigan, it's in Lansing, and we have 12 affiliates across the state of Michigan, including the UP. And Nami Metro, Oakland, Wayne, and Macomb County is the one that covers those three counties. The interesting thing, or the good thing about Nami as a national organization, is they provide the training for the signature programs that are out there for support groups, for the presentations like Ending the Silence that's taken into middle and high schools, like In Our Own Voice, which is a program where it's presented to businesses, colleges, universities. And so those programs are going to be the same no matter if you're in Michigan or if you're in California or if you're in Florida. People are going to be trained with the similar processes for these evidence-based programs. So we also do things locally here. Specifically, we'll get calls because it's Mental Health Awareness Month. We've had 16 events in the month of in this month alone in May. And so there's a lot of interest, but we can also customize presentations. We may get a call from somebody wanting to do a presentation on teen depression or suicide prevention. So those are things that we can put together and bring to the community based on what it is that they have a specific interest in.
More information on programs, support groups, and the In Our Own Voice program as well by visiting namimetro.org. That's namimetro.org for more information. We're joined by Leon Judd, the president of Nami Metro, on the Michigan Megacast. And so as you're talking about these programs, you mentioned the training that goes into these programs. What sort of volunteer opportunities are there for people if they would like to help the organization on a volunteer basis and they don't necessarily have a need for or are seeking the services of Nami Metro?
Yeah, we get people trained to be support group leaders for family support groups, as well as what we call connection peer-led support groups. These are, everything that NAMI does, I think I should have mentioned this, is peer-led. So if it's a family program, either education or support group, it is run by a family member who has a loved one with a mental illness. So it's lived experience, different than a professional, for example. Both are important, but different approaches and different understandings. The other is, if it's a program for someone who is struggling with a mental health condition, those programs are run by individuals who are in recovery and have been trained to either run a support group or do some of the presentations that are put out by NAMI or some of the education. So we have quite a few people trained in like In Our Own Voice and some of the presentations. We're always looking for people who are in recovery, who are comfortable with being a facilitator and trained to be a leader. So you have to be a member of Nami Metro, number one, and that's really simple and very inexpensive to be. And you become a member actually of the state organization as well as the national organization, and you get communications from all of those organizations if you are a member. The one area that is very difficult for us to find volunteers for and get trained are young people who are in recovery from mental illness. there is a program called Ending the Silence that we have that requires two presenters. One is a family member, and one is an individual, a young person who has got lived experience that is willing to tell their story in a fashion that is laid out by Nami National. And it's kind of hard. I think young people have a difficult time coming forward about their recovery story. But we'll typically get one or two, but we're always looking for those people. And we're always looking for people in recovery that are going to be comfortable in being a facilitator or a support group leader. This training that comes about is typically done twice a year. Nami, Michigan puts that training on, so it's in the spring and in the fall. And then we're kind of at their beck and call in terms of what trainings they're going to be putting on each in the spring and in the fall. But those are the two areas probably where we have the biggest need. We have people there now, but we can always use more in those two categories. That's support group leaders and young people to be trained to be Ending the Silence presenters.
We're joined by Leon Judd, the president of Nami Metro, joining us on the Michigan Megacast. More information on Nami Metro can be found at namimetro.org. That's namimetro.org. Leon, what are some other ways that if people would like to support Nami Metro at this time, they can support the organization and the work that it does, facilitating these programs and these support groups for those suffering or in recovery from mental illness in the local area?
Yeah, going to the website is probably one of the best ways. NamiMetro.org. There's an announcements page, and there's a lot of great information on the resource page. On the information links, we have probably too many links for resources there. But the two things that are coming up, July 31st, there is a fundraiser that is going to be the 17th year for that fundraiser. It's called Skins and Pins. Information you can get on it and sign up at skinsandpins, all one word, .org. And it is the last Sunday of July always, so it'll be July 31st. We're always looking for sponsors, and we're always looking for teams to sign up for that program. It's being held at Fox Hills Golf and Banquet Center in Plymouth, Michigan. And so we're in the midst right now working hard at getting ready for that to happen. The other thing that happens every year is the Nami Michigan Walk. Nami Metro has always got a large group of walkers. That walk is designed to raise awareness and raise funding for the affiliates and the state to be able to carry out the duties that they do, especially when you're an all-volunteer organization. We have a lot of requirements in that we don't have an office. All the money, just so you know, in Nami Metro goes towards providing all the materials and the classes and the trainings that are needed right back into the organization. So we have no rent, we have no salaries, we have no utilities. So the only operating is like our helplines and those kinds of things that we have. But the Nami Walk is going to be on September. I'm not sure. I think it's September 24th. I'm sorry. It's going to be September 24th. And this year, rather than at Belle Isle, the walk is going to be at Wayne State University. So we would encourage everybody to sign up. It'll soon be available for you to sign up on namimetro.org and also Nami Michigan. We're just getting the links put in place now to be able to do that. But I would encourage you, if you sign up, please sign up for Nami Metro. And we have a wonderful T-shirt that we'll give you if you're a first-time walker with us. And it's a yellow shirt with a big skunk on it that says "Stigma Stinks." And that's one of the things that we're always fighting to do, is to kind of eradicate the stigma because we're trying to make the quality of life for individuals and family members in this world of mental health get destigmatized, because there's still a lot of stigma around mental illness.
Leon, thank you so much for joining us.
Okay. Good to be here, Tyler. Thank you.
Appreciate having you on, talking about services for those that may be suffering with issues with mental health in our community. Not only them, but their families as well. Really appreciate your time and insight, Leon. We're going to take a break here on the Megacast. When we return on your radio homes for the program, 89.3 WBLD Orchard Lake and 88.1 WBFH Bloomfield Hills, as well as the remainder of our network, we'll kick off the Michigan Megacast, talking about conflict with Gabe Karp. That's up next. This is the Michigan Megacast.
Let's savor these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the dining out going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. Wondering what to say to someone who's been sexually assaulted or abused?
I believe you. I'm so sorry this happened.
It's not your fault.
Confidential and anonymous help is available at the Michigan Sexual Assault Hotline. Connect with us 24/7. Call 855-VOICES-4 or text 1-866-238-1454 for help. Learn more at michigan.gov/voices4. Now that the vaccine is available for children 5 and up, why do you recommend it?
Kids are part of the community and they can spread COVID.
We're seeing both healthy children getting sick from the virus as well as children with underlying health conditions.
They can easily bring the virus home to other people that are vulnerable and make them sick as well.
This vaccine can change that and keep children safe.
It's essential that your children get vaccinated to protect them, to protect your families, and to protect those in the community around you.
Can I ask you a question? Why do you want to get the COVID-19 vaccine?
I don't like getting sick. The virus will die. It will be easy to not catch it. Keep my family safe and keep playing soccer because I love being vaccinated.
What's your hope for everyone?
I hope everybody gets the vaccine to keep safe and strong. Be like happy, having fun everywhere. Everyone stay safe and hope you get the vaccine.
Welcome to the Michigan Megacast, our live daily 1-hour show about all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. Learn more about the program by visiting our website at civiccentertv.com and clicking on our Megacast link, where you'll find information on our entire network of stations, including our secondary flagship on the Michigan Megacast, My Michigan TV. Highly recommend you click on the My Michigan TV link, where you can learn more information about all the different places that you can download their free apps for your smart TVs and your smartphones. Take My Michigan TV programming home with you and watch in the comfort of your home on the big screen or anywhere in Michigan and around the world on the My Michigan TV app. That's mymytv.com, mymitv.com, or go to civiccentertv.com/megacast and click on our My Michigan TV link. Joining us now on the Michigan Megacast is Gabe Karp. He's a partner at Detroit Venture Partners and the author of Don't Get Mad at Penguins and Other Ways to Detox the Conflict in Your Life and Your Business. Gabe, thank you for being with us today.
Thanks for having me on. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning to you as well. Appreciate having you on the program. So first off, can you just give us a little bit of your background and how you got into your current work, how you became an author? I understand you began your career as a trial lawyer.
Yes, that was a long way away from where I am now. But began my career as a trial lawyer. Never planned to go into business or anything like that. I was a litigator, so I was in court quite often. Did a lot of commercial litigation, which is what I call business divorce, and also some legal malpractice work. So our firm was suing other lawyers for screwing up, which if you think about a lawsuit being contentious, those lawsuits were super contentious. But it was great. It was great training. Imagine someone who cross-examines people for a living and who hates you. And you learn a lot about anger and how the energy can flow in a room and in a dialogue, and how to, at the time, if someone was angry with me, I tried to get them even more angry. I tried to get them as angry as I possibly could because it would just work to my advantage. And I was a litigator for about 10 years and then left the private practice law and joined a small startup. which was a whole other story that would take too long to get into now, but joined a small startup, maybe about 20 people or so when I joined. And we grew pretty fast to over 500 people. And while I first started out as the legal guy, pretty soon I was taking on lots of non-legal responsibilities, operations teams, and working with lots of leaders and helping grow other leaders in the company. And we started throwing off some cash. So we started to look for other companies to acquire. And I headed up those efforts and did the M&A stuff on those. And then we'd acquire companies and integrate them. And throughout that entire process, throughout being a lawyer and then working in business, anytime I would look backwards, maybe 6 months or a year, to try to inventory how I had been spending my time, I was always gravitating toward conflict. It used to be I was trying to create conflict and mix it up and stir it up. But then in business, I was seeking out conflict, rooting out conflict to figure out where the friction points were so that we could eliminate them and just be more efficient and grow faster. And the same patterns of conflict I saw in litigation were recurring in business and in personal lives too. So it wasn't the only common denominator was human beings working with one another, dealing with issues. And I started getting pattern recognition where I'd run into a problem and I'd say, wait a second, I've been in this situation before. It was different people, different dates, different facts, but it's the same structure of a problem. It's the same anatomy of the problem. And I started working on some tools to resolve them. And the great thing is that the same tools that can resolve conflict in a lawsuit or in a really difficult issue dealing with a client can be applied in any walk of life. And it doesn't matter if you're in the boardroom or in the courtroom or in the break room or in the parent-teacher conference or the bar or the Thanksgiving dinner table with a drunk, angry uncle spouting off about politics. It's the same patterns and the same tools. And then we sold our company. It was a successful exit. And since then, I've been into venture capital and working with the CEOs of companies that I'm on the boards of and seeing the same patterns over and over again. Only now I've got a pretty full portfolio of mistakes that I've made in the past. So I can see those patterns, and CEO tells me that something's going on and I say, oh yeah, I did that. I screwed that one up really bad. So I can certainly tell you, don't do what I did. maybe try this instead. And it's just really interesting to me how all of these things kind of come full circle. And again, same patterns. And I have sort of identified what I call toxins in conflict. And these are things that naturally occur in human interaction: anger, fear, judgment, ego. And in the right amounts, those things are great. They drive progress. They cause us to fix things that are broken. They help us avoid problems. But if those elevate too much or they get too low, they become toxic, and the conflict becomes toxic. So I like focusing on detoxing the conflict and then taking the healthy conflict and leveraging it to drive success. And if you think about it, probably any time in your life that you feel that you really grew from an experience or that you benefited from it, that was you working through conflict in a healthy way. Or maybe it didn't work out well for you. Since you got from that, put you in a much better position to deal with a similar conflict in the future in a far better way.
So, Gabe, when you mention good conflict, so often when people discuss the idea of a conflict being in place in any environment, it has this negative connotation. But like you said, there are certain kinds of conflict that can be very constructive in many different environments. Can you define what is good conflict and how to recognize that, okay, there's a conflict in my work situation, in my family situation, in my social life, but this is good. This can build something better in this relationship.
Yeah, sure. One premise to that question is that conflict is inevitable. And one of the myths out there, the common misconceptions, is that conflict is a bad thing and should be avoided. So I would say anyone who tries to avoid conflict is trying to avoid the inevitable. And that usually makes it worse. When you avoid a small conflict now because it's uncomfortable, that will allow it to fester and grow and develop into a much bigger conflict that's going to hit you eventually. So I would say this. Most conflict comes from a difference of opinion or a difference in goals between people or groups or teams. And to me, that's a good thing. To recognize those differences and to be able to work through them allows you to pick the best solution, because no one person has all the answers. And everyone can benefit from a contrary viewpoint. And the ability to hear that viewpoint, to make your viewpoint known to someone who disagrees with you, allows both sides to come up with something that has collective benefit for everyone involved. So let's get specific. Let's say there's a leader who has an underperforming team member on their team, and they've got some harsh feedback to give that person. Tell that person things that they is not going to want to hear because it's going to make them feel bad. And as a result, the leader says, well, I don't want to be disrespectful. I don't want to hurt that person's feelings. So the leader withholds the feedback to avoid the conflict. But that's not avoiding conflict. That's just allowing someone who is doing something wrong or could be doing something better to improve to continue making mistakes. That's not respectful. That's disrespectful. That's mean. That's like actually a cruel thing to do to another human being. Take a really simple example. If right before I came on this show, I was talking to someone and I had food in my teeth, like spinach in my teeth, and the person looking at me just didn't say anything and allowed me to come on here, like that'd be mean. That's something I want to know. So healthy conflict is the kind of conflict where a leader can sit down with someone and say, listen, we've got a bit of a conflict here, but I want you to be aware of these things so that you can improve. And if you improve, then the team improves. And if the team improves, the company improves, and it's all good.
And what can be difficult in the heat of the moment in a conflict or in a discussion that can get a little bit heated because there is a conflict in opinion or a conflict in philosophy, or certainly if there's a conflict in the perceived execution of something in a business sense, there can be this difficulty to take a step back, identify the situation you're in, and try to find the best route out for everybody involved, and identify what you have marked as those toxins. What's some advice or some strategies that you have for taking that step back and identifying in this conflict what are these toxins, and then how do we address them to turn this conflict into something positive like we just spoke about?
Sure. Yeah. Great question. As far as the toxins are concerned, there are quite a few, but I found that 4 account for the vast majority of conflicts that I've experienced and witnessed: anger, fear, judgment, and ego. And when those things when people don't have enough of them or they have too much of them, those are the toxins, and they create the conflict. But you also, at the beginning of your question, you touched on something that's really important, and that is, in the moment, it's hard because we kind of get triggered inside, like we get amped up, and there are really good reasons for that. And it's very helpful to understand that. I mean, it's nature and nurture. We are socialized from a young age to shy away from conflict. We sugarcoat feedback. We soften bad news. Our parents told us, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. That creates this sign that if we ever express a contrary opinion or openly disagree with somebody, we're kind of, we're going against, we're sort of violating the rules that we were taught as a child. So we just don't want to do that. And in addition to that, we've got physiological aspects of our body that have developed over the millennia. You're talking about billions of years of evolution that have secured the survival and growth of the human species to protect against threats. And when we're confronted with a physical threat in the wild, we have a fight or flight response. And that does things like takes our thinking offline. When you're facing when our ancestors faced a saber-toothed tiger, when they came out of the cave, they didn't have time to think or reason. They just had to react, and it had to be instinctive and reactive. So great. But those instincts are today. So when I'm in a meeting and someone says something and I feel maybe personally attacked or judged in a way, I'll start to feel the physiological effects of conflict. Like the hair on the back of my neck will stand up. My breathing and heart rate may increase. And those are signs. Those physiological symptoms are signs that something's going on and taking you into some toxic situation. So one piece of advice I have, and it's not like you can just flip a switch. You can't just turn that off. But what you can do is think about it in advance. And when that happens, identify the moment when you've got those physiological responses to conflict. And maybe at first you identifying it in real time, but you will immediately afterwards. I always tell people, like, have you ever come up with the perfect thing to say in an argument only an hour after the argument ended? And everyone says, yeah. And the reason is that your access to the thinking part of your brain had been shut down during that conflict. So if that ever happens, think back to that moment, because it won't have been that long ago. And you can say, you know what? I kind of get a sense of how I react in those situations. And the next time it happens and you say, oh, wait, I feel like my breathing's getting rapid, or I realize I don't like how this person's talking to me. I don't feel as in control of my thoughts and my words right now. If you can take literally just one breath and hold that space for a second or two, that's enough to disrupt that instinctive response and pull yourself into intellectual awareness. And that gives you power and control. And then there are a number of different tools you can employ to use them. But that first step it's not easy at first, but it's not that hard. And if you do it 3 or 4 times, the learning curve is pretty sharp. So you get much better after your third time of doing it than you did after your first.
We're joined by Gabe Carp, partner at Detroit Venture Partners. He's also an author of the book, Don't Get Mad at Penguins, Detox the Conflict in Your Life and Business for Success and Happiness. It's Don't Get Mad at Penguins and Other Ways to Detox the Conflict in Your Life and Business. More information on his website, gabecarp.com/book. That's gabecarp with a K.com/book. And so, Gabe, I do want to ask you about the title. Don't Get Mad at Penguins is the main title of this, and it also has the subtitle, and other ways to detox the conflict in your life and business. But where does the origin? Yes. Where does the origin? What's the origin? What's the purpose of Don't Get Mad at Penguins? Where does that come from?
Well, I think it's best to think of a saying. And I made this up, but I say it in a way that makes me sound like some wise old sage. But it's between expectation and reality is a space filled with suffering and conflict. And the wider that space becomes, the greater our suffering is. And the penguin analogy is really a lesson in acceptance. We should accept people with their limitations and all, and not expect them to do things that they're not capable of, even though we may really, really want them to. And one of the challenges with that is that it's oftentimes really hard to see someone's limitations, especially if everything else we know about them suggests that they're not limited. So take a penguin, for example. What do you mean a penguin can't fly? It's a bird. It's got wings. It's got feathers. And birds with wings and feathers can fly. Except that penguins can't. Flight is simply beyond their ability, despite the fact that everything else we know about them suggests that they should be able to. And we can choose to get mad at that, or we can accept it. And that analogy, you can apply it to interaction and people that you deal with on a regular basis. And whatever the facts are, when you find that you are continually getting frustrated or angry or even fearful of someone in a similar situation over and over again because they're not behaving in a way that you want them to, it's very possible that that person is not making a choice. They're not doing it on purpose. The thing that you want them to do is beyond their ability.
Joined by Gabe Harp, partner at Detroit Venture Partners and author of Don't Get Mad at Penguins and Other Ways to Detox the Conflict in Your Life and Business, joining us on the Michigan Megacast. More information on his website, gabecarp.com/book. That's gabecarp with a K.com/book. And Gabe, if people are interested in picking up a copy of Don't Get Mad at Penguins, where can they find your book online and even in some stores?
As my publisher says, the book is available everywhere books are sold. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, Walmart, Target, Google. There's also an audiobook narrated by me. James Earl Jones wasn't available. And that's available on Audible, audiobooks.com, Apple, and a number of other platforms. So if you Google Don't Get Mad at Penguins, you'll see all the results you need to order it. And it's a great it's a quick read, and I'd say it's a great investment for a few bucks. You can get a new perspective on something you've probably been dealing with for a long time.
Yeah, take a couple of the pieces of advice from Gabe in today's program and expand on that with a full book of that sage advice. Gabe, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's been fun.
Appreciate it, Gabe. We're going to take a break on the Megacast. On the other side, we'll explore programs for those with disabilities with the Penrithton Center for the Blind. That's all up next. You're watching and listening to the Michigan Megacast.
Can I ask you a question? Why do you want to get the COVID-19 vaccine?
I don't like getting sick. The virus will die. It will be easy to not catch it. Keep my family safe and keep playing soccer because I love being vaccinated.
What's your hope for everyone?
I hope everybody gets the vaccine to keep safe and strong. Be like happy, having fun everywhere. Everyone stay safe and hope you get the vaccine.
Let's relish these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the festivals going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. Let's savor these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the dining out going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. Wondering what to say to someone who's been sexually assaulted or abused?
I believe you. I'm so sorry this happened.
It's not your fault.
Confidential and anonymous help is available at the Michigan Sexual Assault Hotline. Connect with us 24/7. Call 855-VOICES-4 or text 1-866-238-1454 for help. Learn more at michigan.gov/voices4.
Welcome back to the Michigan Megacast, our live daily 1-hour show about all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. Learn more about the program on our website at civiccentertv.com. On our Megacast link, where you'll find information on our entire network of stations, including My Michigan TV. Joining us now on the program is Janet Ames from the Pendleton Center for the Blind, one of over 300 charities and nonprofits supported on the Shared Detroit platform. Janet, thank you for being with us today.
Thanks for having us. Happy to be here.
Yeah, happy to have you on as well. Thank you for joining us today. First of all, just give us a little bit of information on the Pendleton Center and the services that it provides to individuals in our communities.
Sure, I'd love to. Penrithton Center for Blind Children is located in Taylor, which is right near Metro Airport, if you're not familiar. But we work with children from all over southeastern Michigan and beyond, as well as northern Ohio. The kids in our program are all at least legally blind. And in addition to that, they have other disabilities like cerebral palsy, developmental delay, seizure disorders, autism, a whole variety of things, making each of our children very unique in their abilities and their disabilities.
And what about the history of this organization? It's got an interesting background. How did the name come up? And I'm assuming it's named after a person who did something significant in this particular community.
That's absolutely true. It's actually named after three very important people. 70 years ago, the Penmans, the Rickers, and the Wigingtons, so Penrithton, came together. Two of the families had children who were blind. And at that time, in the 50s, there was no services for children who were blind. And so the families got together and said, hey, let's start our own little preschool. And it grew from there. So throughout those 70 years, Penderkin has evolved to work with the community, not with kids who are just blind, but kids who have the multiple disabilities. So in the mid 70s, special education came to be. And so kids who are just blind could just go to school in their local school district. And our environment was really more appropriate for families who have children who have multiple impairments.
We're joined by Janet Ames, the Community Relations Specialist at Pendleton Center for Blind Children, joining us on the Michigan Megacast. The center, located in Taylor, is one of nearly 300 charities and nonprofits supported by Share Detroit on the Share Detroit platform. More information can be found on sharedetroit.org by looking in their Find a Nonprofit section. So, Janet, what are some of those programs and services that are provided by the center, and how do people in Taylor and in surrounding communities in Michigan access those services if they themselves are blind or their children are blind or multi-disabled, as you said?
Yes. So the kids that we work with are all between the ages of 1 and 12 years old. And we have 3 programs. The first is a residential program where the kids can actually stay overnight. So if we draw from about a 2-hour driving distance. So our maximum amount of time is Monday through Friday, where the kids stay overnight with us. And then we also have a daycare program, like any other daycare. But once again, the kids are blind and multiply handicapped. Kids come in the morning, leave at night, or come in after school and leave in the evening. And then our third program, which during COVID is actually really grown, is our consultation program. And we could work with children that are across the street or on the other side of the world. And we'll do a video conference, much like this, where we'll work with their families and their support people, teachers, therapists, extended family, that kind of thing. And we would try to do as much of an assessment as we can when we're remote like this, and be able to provide some guidance and advice over what kind of activities, how to set goals that are appropriate for the children, and different resources that would be available in their local community.
More information can be found on Penrithton.org. That's Penrithton.org, PENRICKTON.org for the Pendleton Center for Blind Children. Joining us on the Megacast, we have Janet Ames from the organization with us on the program. You can also find more info on sharedetroit.org. That's sharedetroit.org. And so where can people go? Obviously, your website's one way that they can sign up for these programs, but are there other ways if people do not have access to the internet or are unable to go through the processes required through the internet, that they can get some intervention and some help from an organization like yours?
Yes, families can always call us, but we also, families can just come by as well. So we are open Monday through Friday. And if we've had families that have just walked in to get information and, to kind of see what the place looks like when they're just dropping in like that. So we have a social worker who's full-time, who works closely with all the families that are coming in. Our program is really designed to be a partnership with the families. Almost all of the children in our program have brothers and sisters without disabilities. And so our focus is not just what can we do to help a child be as independent as possible? What can we do to also help the siblings understand what's going on with the disabilities, to be able to explain it to their peers, as well as to help give the parents the skills they'll need for the long haul. So for a lifetime of being an advocate for their child, learning to, kind of dig up resources, select different equipment they might need. So our focus is not only with the children, but with the whole family unit. So I like to always, kind of point out that it's a partnership with the parents and our program. I also want to add that our families come, I mentioned about a 2-hour driving distance, but they come from every walk of life. There is no charge for our services, and the families qualify if their child qualifies. So we have families from every ethnic, educational, social, economic, education, religious, every family is very different, but they come to Penrithton because they have a child who'll benefit from our services.
We're joined by Janet Ames, the Community Relations Specialist at the Pendrick Center for Blind Children, joining us on the Michigan Megacast. More information, again, penrithton.org. That's penrithton.org, penrithton.org for more information and to sign up for services as well. You can also get in contact with them by calling their main phone number at 734-946-7500. That's 734-946-7500. For more information. And so earlier this spring, the Pendleton Center became the recipient of a very generous gift from Lincoln of Troy that is utilized every day by your center. Tell us about that gift and how it is utilized to provide your services.
It was actually a gift that was in coordination with the Variety, the children's charity. Okay. And they had decades ago had given us a wheelchair van. And in the last 20 years, we've actually upgraded the lift for the many of our children are in wheelchairs. I didn't really mention that, but because of the cerebral palsy or other orthopedic problems. But we were able to upgrade the lift over the years, do some work on the inside. But the van was getting very old, and so Lincoln of Troy actually replaced all the tires. They did a lot of work that's underneath the hood to make sure that it's safe, the brakes, things like that, to make sure that it's safe for us to go out and about. So the children that are in our program, we want them to have as many real-life experiences as possible. So not only do we have a fabulous playground in our backyard, we bring in horses and petting farm kind of animals, but also the kids go out and about to the movies, to the restaurants, to the parks, to a baseball game, to wherever you would go with any other kids. Bowling's a big deal here too. So wherever you would take other children, our kids go, and our staff are very specially trained so that they know how to make that experience relevant to the child as well as meaningful, so that there's a lot of interaction.
You have some fun events also coming up very soon. Can you tell us about your Ride for a Reason event and how people can participate and support your organization by participating in this event?
Yes, thank you. Penrithton, we do not receive state, federal, or United Way funds. 100% of everything we do. So all this fun stuff you see behind me in this room, plus all the staff that make this work, the money that puts the lights on over our head is given to us by people in the community. Individuals, groups, organizations. And one of the organizations that's been very involved with Penrithton is the Harley Owners Group, so the Hog Chapters. So Motown Harley, which is also located here in Taylor, is helping to sponsor our 22nd annual Ride for a Reason. And it'll be held on June 5th. We start in Dundee, Michigan. There's check-in at 10 a.m. and the ride leaves promptly at noon. It's a nonstop ride, so the lights are blocked so that the riders can just have a nice leisurely ride all the way up to Taylor, where it's about a 2-hour ride where there'll be some music and raffles and food. Thanks to Variety Food Service for the food. We also have support through Cabela's, which is where the ride starts, as well as Motown and the Hog Chapters that are involved, and some of the motorcycle clubs. So this event is very important for Penrithton. It not only gives us some visibility because we're a small nonprofit, but it gives us those much needed funds to keep our program going and to make we have the highest quality services here for our children and their families.
And Janet, just another couple minutes with you before we need to say goodbye today. I want to also give an opportunity. If people would like to help the organization, what are some ways, both financially and, of course, with volunteer hours as well, that they can help the Pendleton Center at this time?
We love to have volunteers, which is how we're involved with Share Detroit, which is how this interview came to be. But our volunteers are very critical. We're a small staff. We need people to do everything from some mail kind of, stuffing mail and folding letters, to pulling weeds, to painting on walls, to We have volunteers that are trained with our to work with our kids, and they help us with our horseback riding program. So volunteers are very very critical for us to be successful. So going through our website, we have a volunteer tab on that, as well as through Share Detroit, and you can always call us as well. So it's a very important part of our program. So we couldn't do it without all the people that support us. So not only financially and with your time, but we also need things that we all need in everyday homes, like garbage bags and food. Our food program, we really work hard to take advantage of all the food that people donate to us, whether it's fresh produce. We had recently somebody who donated a whole cow to us. They had it processed, and we got all the beef. So anything that you would use in your own home, we would use here. So we do make our meals from scratch. So we have a full-time cook. So that just donating food is also really impacts the way we can have our program.
Janet, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate your time and for telling us so much more about this great organization located in Taylor, Michigan.
Thank you for your time. It was a pleasure to be here.
You can learn more about the Pendleton Center for the Blind by visiting sharedetroit.org, where you'll also learn more about their over 300 other charities and nonprofits that they support on that platform. When we come back from this quick break, we'll be joined by Andrea Harper from the Michigan Science Center, who's also one of the Michigan Chronicle's 40 under 40. We'll talk to her next on the Michigan Megacast.
Now that the vaccine is available for children 5 and up, why do you recommend it?
Kids are part of the community and they can spread COVID.
We're seeing both healthy children getting sick from the virus as well as children with underlying health conditions.
They can easily bring the virus home to other people that are vulnerable and make them sick as well.
This vaccine can change that and keep children safe.
It's essential that your children get vaccinated to protect them, to protect your families, and to protect those in the community around you.
Can I ask you a question? Why do you want to get the COVID-19 vaccine?
I don't like getting sick. The virus will die. It will be easy to not catch it. Keep my family safe and keep playing soccer because I love being vaccinated.
What's your hope for everyone?
I hope everybody gets the vaccine to keep safe and strong. Be like happy, having fun everywhere. Everyone stay safe and hope you get the vaccine.
Let's relish these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the festivals going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. Let's savor these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the dining out going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. Wondering what to say to someone who's been sexually assaulted or abused?
I believe you. I'm so sorry this happened.
It's not your fault.
Confidential and anonymous help is available at the Michigan Sexual Assault Hotline. Connect with us 24/7. Call 855-VOICES-4 or text 1-866-238-1454 for help. Learn more at michigan.gov/voices4.
Welcome back to the Michigan Megacast, our live daily 1-hour show about all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. Learn more about the program on our website at civiccentertv.com on our Megacast link, where you'll find information on our entire network of stations, including My Michigan TV. Joining us now on Megacast is the Chief of Staff at one of our favorite Michigan destinations for fun and for learning, the Michigan Science Center. Andrea Harper is with us now on the Megacast. Andrea, thank you for being with us today.
Hi, Tyler. It's great to be with you. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing today?
Doing really well.
Great. We appreciate having you on the program. So let's start off with you began the Michigan Science Center in 2019, then as their community partnership manager for their STEMinista project. Can you tell us about that project that helped get local girls into science in the local area through the Michigan Science Center?
Yes, absolutely. So the STEMinista project is definitely one of our staple programs that we're really proud of. The program is dedicated to middle school girls that are in 4th through 8th grade and really committed to getting them high quality STEM opportunities. Together, we partner with corporations and local STEM role models who also help to mentor those young ladies and really just support them and inspire them and uplift them in whatever ways that they can. And so through that project, we hope that girls just become more exposed to the opportunities that STEM has to offer them. We're not necessarily trying to push them in one direction or the other. It's just really about exposure and showing them the opportunities that exist for them. And so, I started out as the community partnership manager, just making connections for that program and really proud of where it's gone thus far.
So it's still ongoing, that program right now?
Yes, absolutely. The project is about 5 years old. And to date, last year, we were actually able to take the program statewide. So we had 12 STEMinista ambassadors that represented various counties and regions across the state of Michigan. And they were able to do amazing things in capstone projects and working with their mentors. And it was awesome to see them graduate and complete their cohort. And now they are considered, again, ambassadors. We're hoping that they'll go out and share with their friends and teachers and anyone else in their community how important STEM has become to them, and hopefully share that message and continue to thrive in their communities.
We're joined by Andrea Harp on the Michigan Megacast. She is the Chief of Staff as well as the Director of Culture and Community at the Michigan Science Center, joining us on the program today. More information on the Michigan Science Center and all of their programs, including the STEMinista program, can be found on the Michigan Science Center's website, mi-sci.org. That's mi-sci.org for more information. And so now your duties at the Michigan Science Center have expanded a little bit. You've gone from that role that you began in 2019 to now the Chief of Staff and the Director of Culture and Community at the Science Center. Tell us about that role and how your previous role at the Michigan Science Center helped you really to expand into this current role.
Yeah, it's definitely been an amazing journey, Tyler, to say the least. I think that a lot of times in careers, we don't always know the direction that we're going to go in. I certainly have always kind of known maybe the destination and that I wanted to be supporting the community. And so when I came to the Michigan Science Center, my only goal was to continue making an impact. And so through my work as the community partnership manager in the STEMinista project and just continuing to try to work with all of my colleagues in a very collaborative way, the opportunity opened up for me to be promoted into the Director of Culture and Community. And that was really an expansion of kind of what I was already doing in building a bridge between what we do at the Michigan Science Center to what's happening in the community. I think it's really important to keep our finger on the pulse of what's happening, of course, outside of our organization, because that informs us on what the community needs from us and how we can best serve them. And so in my role as Director of Culture and Community, I also support our workplace culture. And so that's, of course, really helping to make sure that the Michigan Science Center is a really welcoming and inclusive place for all of our employees and staff. And so from that role was also kind of born the Chief of Staff role, which supports the Office of the President and CEO, Dr. Christian Greer, who I know that you know very well, Tyler. He's been on the Megacast a couple of times. And so I support his work directly by making sure that I help to execute his agenda by working very collaboratively with our entire team and just making sure everybody's on the same page. So it's a pretty cool job. I'm really proud to have it and proud to keep our work going.
So, Andrea, every year the Michigan Chronicle releases their 40 Under 40 Awards that recognizes local Black young professionals impacting all sectors of the greater Detroit area and economy. Last week, you were recognized as one of those 40 Under 40 for 2022 as one of their honorees. Can you talk about the recognition and what it means to you, and also how you found out from the Michigan Chronicle that you were going to be on their 40 Under 40?
Yeah, absolutely. The funny thing, I got an email and it came to my Gmail. It's really funny. In this day and age, there's all this spam and kind of junk mail that comes. And so, there's tons of things in your subject line that say congratulations. So when I saw the congratulatory message in the subject line, I definitely had to pause and to make sure that it was legitimate. And then when I took a few moments to read through the entire email, I realized that, oh my gosh, holy smokes, I have been nominated in a 40 Under 40 honoree for the Michigan Chronicle. So it's something that is really, really meaningful. I think there's something really powerful when you can be recognized by your own community. And so many of my peers are on that list that I know and love and respect all of their work. And so to even be mentioned amongst those folks is incredibly important. And I think for me on a personal level, it really was, I think, confirmation of just, I spoke about not always knowing the right direction when you're in the middle of your career or at the beginning of your career, sometime at the end of the career, trying to figure out, have I made the right decisions? Am I going in the right direction? And I think it was just, a nice check mark to say, yep, you're heading in the right direction and keep doing more of what you're doing, which has always been serving the community. And so I'm so honored and so grateful and just really, really privileged to be able to share that moment with my family, my friends, my husband, my daughter, who is 11 and definitely can use examples like so many of the other honorees that are on that list of what powerful men and women can be and how impactful they can be in their communities. So
Andrea,
excited.
Please continue. Andrea, so as you mentioned that, what about receiving this award, or how does it manifest as special to you personally, but also in validating the work that you do, but also how does it feel for you knowing that you are one of those people on that list? That you mentioned your 11-year-old daughter seeing these other people that are on the 40 Under 40 list and having those role models, but also knowing that you may be a similar form of a role model as that for other people and other young people in the local community.
I will say it's a little heavy to a certain degree, right? When people start looking at you a little bit with a little bit more scrutiny, maybe. But I will say it's such a privilege. It's an honor, right, to be named on that list and to know that my work is something that's been recognized, because it's something that I hold with such high esteem and with such pride, if you will. And so for me, I think that it's just, it's a great opportunity for me to continue doing what I've always done. I've always tried to make myself available for mentoring and coaching folks that are coming up behind me and alongside of me. I've always wanted to be a resource to share, of course, my personal journey, but my professional journey as well. And so to be on that list and to be recognized in this way, I think just strengthens my platform in a lot of ways and gives me more opportunity to continue work like that. Because I think we all need someone, right? We all need a resource. We all need someone who we can bounce an idea off of or have a little bit of thought partnership with. And I think that opportunities like being on this list and being honored in this way creates more space for folks like myself to continue that kind of work as well.
We're joined by Andrea Harp on the Michigan Megacast. She is the Chief of Staff and the Director for Culture and Community at the Michigan Science Center, joining us on today's program. More information on what's being done in their Culture and Community Department, as well as their other programs at the Michigan Science Center, can be found on the Michigan Science Center's website, mi-sci.org. Again, that is mi-sci.org. And Andrea, at this moment, what are some of the other programs or initiatives that you and your team are working on to, as you said, get out into the community and kind of gauge the pulse of the community and incorporate that then into Michigan Science Center programs and exhibits?
Absolutely. So in addition to all of the amazing things that are happening right inside of our building, I'm really pleased and proud to be getting ready to launch our young professional advisory group, if you will. It's one of those opportunities where we can connect with younger professionals that are from Detroit or working in the Metro Detroit area as a way to connect to them and find out, how the Science Center may have impacted them and how they can continue to support us. And so we are looking at industry professionals from several fields, and we're really excited to be launching that opportunity as, again, yet another bridge between the work that we do and what's happening outside of our four walls, if you will. And together with those professionals, we hope to infuse the Science Center with more ideas, some more fresh voices, and folks that can, of course, bring their network and their resources to what we already have going on. I think collective impact is so powerful, and when we can partner and collaborate and co-create things with folks that are outside of our organization and want to support what we're doing, we can do some really powerful things. So we're hoping that with a connection to these young professionals, we're hoping to relaunch some of our activities here at the Science Center that focus on our adult audience. That's one of the things that, sometimes people see us just as an extremely family-friendly venue, which we absolutely are. But we want to make sure that everyone sees us as a resource, and that people know that we are putting everyone at the center of science, regardless of their age. And so we're excited to launch that project and hopefully getting those folks in our building soon and hearing some of their amazing ideas and, of course, putting them to work.
Andrea, we appreciate your time. Thank you for being with us today. Before we let you go, got another minute or so before we'll have to say goodbye. Anything else we haven't talked about today, or anything else that you'd like to say or mention that's coming up at the Michigan Science Center?
I want to wrap up by just saying that if you haven't heard, we have our Popnology traveling exhibit, which is still here until, I believe, August 11th of next month. And so we are just inviting everybody to come out and see it. You can, of course, get information on our website, but that exhibit is fantastic. It's so cool. If you love movies and are really into sci-fi, and even if you're not, I think there's something for everyone, everything from the VR experience to seeing the replica of the DeLorean, which is absolutely my favorite part. I think you got to come down and check it out before it travels to the next site. So other than that, we're excited to welcome anybody who wants to come in our space and check out what we have going on.
Andrea, thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the invitation.
The website is mi-sci.org, mi-sci.org for more information on everything happening now and in the future at the Michigan Science Center. We thank Andrea for joining us and all of our guests for joining us on each and every edition of the Oakland County and the Michigan Megacasts each and every day. You can tune in to the Oakland County Megacast live on our variety of stations all across the Metro Detroit area and around the state of Michigan every day, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. until 11 o'clock in the morning, followed by the Michigan Megacast all across the Great Lakes State on My Michigan TV and a variety of partners from 11 o'clock to noon right here on a variety of TV, radio, and other stations that join us every single day. You can find all of today's interviews as well as our full program on demand sometime mid to late afternoon today on civiccentertv.com. Just click on our Megacast link where you'll find links to on-demand information on our full episodes and each individual interview, and you'll also find helpful links that bring you to each and every one of our partnering TV, radio, and web outlets, so you can learn more about the other great programming that they're producing in the 22 hours of the day that they're not joining us on the Oakland County and the Michigan Megacasts. Also encourage you to go to our local news page, to keep up to date on everything making headlines about COVID-19 and other news here in the state of Michigan every single day, as well as links for COVID-19 information directly from reliable and expert resources at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, and the Oakland County Health Division. We have links to their COVID-19 specific web pages so that you don't have to go digging through all the weeds of the information that's out there on the internet, some of which is false and some of which is intentionally misleading. Go directly to these expert sources federally, locally, and statewide on civiccentertv.com on our local news page. Thank you to our crew as well, Calvin Brown and Jared Clark at the offices of My Michigan TV, and our producer, Larry Nyland. On My Michigan TV, coming up next, it is Steve Lato Live from noon to 1 p.m., and we'll return tomorrow with a new edition of the Oakland County and the Michigan Megacasts.